I'm 82 years old, and I've buried more truths than most men will ever face. I watched my best friend kiss his wife goodnight for 11 years without knowing she'd been with another man that same afternoon. 11 years. He died not knowing. And I carried that secret to his grave because the truth would have killed him before the cancer did. That's when I decided, no man I can reach will ever be that blind again. Today I'm giving you 8 signs that expose a woman who just slept with someone else. Signs of infidelity every man must know. Most men see these signs and explain them away. But the last one, she can't hide it, no matter how hard she tries. Subscribe now and stay till the end. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a life coach. I'm not selling you anything. I'm an 82-year-old man sitting in a quiet house with cold coffee and a photograph of my late wife on the shelf. That's all I am. But I've been alive long enough to watch the same story destroy good men over and over again. Different faces, different decades, same blindness. I'm not here to make you angry. Anger is cheap. I'm here to make you see. And seeing, that's the part most men refuse to do. By the time I'm done, you'll understand why most men notice these signs and still choose to look away. And you'll know exactly why you can't afford to be one of them. But the 8th sign, I'm saving that one for last, because most men aren't ready for it. Now, the first sign is the quietest, and that's exactly why it destroys the most men. Number 1, the cold silence of her body. Her body goes quiet, not tired, quiet. There's a difference most men never learn until it's too late. You lean in to kiss her and she turns her cheek, just slightly. Not enough to start a fight, just enough to dodge your lips. You touch her shoulder in bed and instead of melting into you, she stiffens. Like your hand is something she's tolerating, not something she wants. She tells you she's exhausted. But here's what exhaustion looks like. Heaviness, weight, a body that collapses toward you because it has nothing left. That's not what you're feeling. What you're feeling is emptiness, a body that's present but hollow. And those two things are not the same. This is where most men lose themselves. You tell yourself it's stress, it's her age, it's yours. It's just what happens after years together. No, attraction doesn't die of old age. I'm 82 and I can tell you that with certainty. Attraction dies when it moves to another source. It doesn't fade, it relocates. I watched my neighbor Ray reach for his wife's hand at a dinner table for 2 years straight. 2 years. She never once pulled away. But she never once held back either. Her hand just sat in his like something dead. She wasn't refusing him. She was simply no longer there. And that's worse than rejection. Rejection is loud. Absence is silent, and silence is what buries men alive. Here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. When a woman has been fulfilled by someone else, she doesn't come back to you hungry. She comes back full, and fullness leaves no space for you. You're trying to light a fire in a body that already burned for someone else that afternoon. The matches don't work. The wood is cold. And you keep striking and striking, wondering what you're doing wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just late. So what do? You don't beg. You don't chase harder. You pull back, and you watch. A woman who still wants you will eventually reach for you on her own. A woman who's been somewhere else will let the silence grow deeper. Your job isn't to force her body to respond. Your job is to recognize when the response is already gone. But here's the problem. If her body goes silent, her habits will start screaming. And the next sign, you'll smell it before you see it. Number 2, the cleansing ritual. She walks through the door and something smells different. Not bad, not wrong, just too clean. A new perfume that wasn't there this morning. A shower that runs 20 minutes longer than it ever used to. Clothes changed between leaving work and coming home for no reason you can explain. On the surface, it looks like self-care. Underneath, it's a cover-up. She's not cleaning her body. She's trying to clean her conscience. And most men miss it because they want to. You tell yourself she just likes to feel fresh. She's trying something new. Maybe she had a long day and needed to unwind. That's how you gaslight yourself. Not her, you. Because facing the darker possibility that she's scrubbing away the traces of another man before you get close enough to notice, that's a door most men refuse to open. Here's what you need to understand. A woman knows her body tells stories. Skin holds scent. Hair carries traces. Clothes remember contact. So she scrubs, she sprays, she erases. And the irony is brutal. The harder she tries to remove the evidence, the louder it becomes. Because that sudden obsession with hygiene, that wasn't there 6 months ago. That's not personal growth. That's a pattern with a purpose. Let me be clear. This isn't about every shower. A woman taking care of herself doesn't mean betrayal. That's not the point. The point is change. If she never cared about rushing to the bathroom the moment she got home, but suddenly treats it like an emergency, you pay attention. If her laundry becomes something she guards instead of something she leaves around, you notice. Psychology isn't about absolutes. It's about shifts. It's about what no longer fits the rhythm of who she was with you. Most men think noticing these things makes them paranoid. No. Ignoring them makes you a fool. There's a wide gap between suspicion and awareness. Suspicion is fear. Awareness is respect for yourself. You smell the perfume, but you call it fragrance instead of deception. You notice the over-cleanliness, but you label it self-improvement instead of what it actually is. And that's how you become an accomplice to your own replacement. But what happens when the body is clean and the guilt still has nowhere to go? Number 3, the blame game. When guilt gets too heavy for a person to carry, they don't confess it, they transfer it. And suddenly, you're the problem. You walk through the door and instead of a hello, you get a complaint. The dishes aren't done right. You're too quiet. You're too loud. You breathe wrong. You exist wrong. Whatever you do, it's not enough. Whatever you say, it's the wrong thing. And the strangest part, none of it started until recently. That irritation isn't random. It has a purpose. Here's the psychology most men never see. If she paints you as the villain, she doesn't have to feel like the betrayer. She rewrites the entire story inside her head. In her version, she didn't step outside the relationship because she wanted to. She did it because you were neglectful, because you were boring, because you stopped trying. She builds a case against you, not in court, but in her conscience. And once that case is built, she sleeps just fine at night, because now it's your fault. This is projection at its sharpest, and the trap most men walk straight into, they defend themselves. You explain, you argue, you list everything you've done for her this week, this month, this year. You think logic will fix it, but you cannot out-logic guilt. The more you defend, the more ammunition she collects. Every reaction feeds her script, and before you know it, you're walking on eggshells inside your own home. Apologizing for things that don't need apologies. shrinking in rooms that used to be yours. I've watched it happen. Good men, strong men, reduced to ghosts in their own kitchens because a guilty woman convinced them they were the failure. It's one of the quietest forms of destruction I've ever seen. So here's the move, and listen carefully because this one shifts the entire dynamic. Next time she snaps at you over something ridiculous, the way you parked, the tone of your voice, the fact that you exist in the wrong corner of the room, don't rise to it. Don't beg. Don't debate. Look her in the eye and say calmly, "You don't need to fight to justify what you've already decided." Then step back, not out of weakness, out of clarity. That single move changes everything, because when you stop playing the role she wrote for you, her script collapses. The guilt has nowhere to go. It sits right where it belongs, with her. And you just reclaimed ground you didn't even realize you'd lost. But projection is powerful. It's not the final mask. The next sign lives in a place no excuse can cover, and it's in her body itself. Number 4, the body doesn't lie. A woman can rehearse her excuses until they sound perfect. She can mask her moods. She can control her words, her tone, even her smile. But there's one thing she cannot script, her body. And this is where most men betray themselves, not because they can't feel the change, but because they refuse to admit they feel it. You know her. You've spent years learning the language of her skin. You know when her touch has weight behind it. You know when her kiss lands with warmth versus when it lands with duty. You know her rhythms, the way she breathes next to you, the way she responds when you reach for her in the dark. That knowledge lives in your bones, not your brain. And when something shifts, you feel it instantly, even if you can't name it. Maybe she's unusually tense when you hold her, or the opposite, strangely relaxed in a way that doesn't match the day she described. Maybe her responsiveness has changed, either exaggerated like she's performing, or absent like she's enduring. Either way, something is off, and your body registered it before your mind caught up. You don't need to be a doctor to notice this. You need to be honest. Here's where men destroy themselves. They explain it away. Hormones, stress, a bad week. And sure, those things exist. But when the shift is sudden, when it doesn't match any pattern you've known in years of being beside her, you owe yourself the truth. Because ignoring what your senses already picked up is the fastest road to humiliation. The mistake men make is thinking that pretending everything's fine will save the relationship. It won't. You're not saving anything. You're postponing a collapse. And every day you postpone it, you lose a piece of yourself you won't get back. And here's the part that stings. Most men respond by trying harder, more affection, more patience, more effort in bed, as if pouring more of yourself into someone who's already detached will somehow pull her back. It won't. You don't win desire back by throwing effort at it. You win by recognizing when it's gone. Those are two very different kinds of strength. One is desperation dressed as love. The other is clarity dressed as pain. If you ignore your senses, you're not being strong. You're being scared. And those are not the same thing. But here's what most men don't expect. Sometimes guilt doesn't look cold at all. Sometimes it walks through the door wearing the warmest smile you've seen in months. Number 5, excessive affection, the theater of guilt. Not every betrayal looks cold. That's what makes this one so cruel. Sometimes it walks through the door wrapped in kisses, hugs that last a little too long, a home-cooked meal you didn't ask for, and "I love you" whispered with watery eyes, while she holds your face like she's memorizing it. And your heart, your stupid, hopeful, loyal heart, wants to believe it's real. You think she's coming back to me. You exhale for the first time in weeks. You drop your guard. You stop watching. You let the warmth wash over you because it feels so good to stop hurting. That's exactly when you're most blind. She isn't coming back to you. She's trying to come back to herself. That affection isn't for you. It's for her conscience. After crossing the line, the guilt doesn't always push a woman away. Sometimes it pulls her closer. Not because she rediscovered her desire for you, because she needs to silence the noise inside her own head. Holding you, cooking for you, whispering sweet things, it's medicine. But not for the relationship, for her shame. And here's why men fall for it every single time. Because it plays directly on hope. And hope is the most dangerous thing a betrayed man can carry. Hope makes you forgive what shouldn't be forgiven. Hope makes you explain away what should be questioned. Hope turns you into the man who holds her guilt and calls it love. And that man, he's not in a relationship. He's in a performance. And he bought a front row ticket to his own replacement. So here's the test. Ask yourself one question. Does this affection come with consistency, or does it only show up in waves after unexplained absences? Does she reach for you on a quiet Tuesday for no reason, or does the sweetness only arrive after she's been unreachable for hours, after stories that don't quite add up, after silences she never explained? Consistency is love. Waves are guilt. Learn the difference. It will save your life. Love doesn't need theater. Real connection doesn't perform. It just exists, quietly, steadily, without apology. If her affection feels like an apology instead of desire, you already know what it is. You just haven't let yourself say it yet. But if you keep accepting the performance, the next stage is worse. Because she won't just touch you without desire. She'll lie beside you while her mind drifts miles away. And that distance, you'll feel it in the dark like a wall between your bodies that neither of you can name. Number 6, emotional absence in intimacy. There's a difference between a body beside you and a soul with you. And once you've felt that difference, you can never unfeel it. This is the sign that cuts the deepest, not because of what she does, but because of what she withholds. Picture this. You're in bed. Everything looks normal on the surface. She's there. She touches you. She moves. She even makes the right sounds. But something is missing. Something behind her eyes has gone dark. Her energy doesn't match yours. Her breathing doesn't sync. You reach for connection, and your hand passes through smoke. She's not with you. She's replaying a memory that doesn't include you. That's not intimacy. That's theater with the lights off. And here's the part men refuse to accept. Tiredness still allows presence. You can be exhausted and still reach for the person you love in the dark. Stress still allows connection. You can carry the weight of the world and still look at your partner like they matter. But this absence, it's neither of those things. It's a void, a hollow space where a person used to be. And no amount of effort on your part will fill it. That's the trap. Men respond to this by pushing harder. You give more affection, more patience, more tenderness. You try new things. You ask what's wrong. You bend yourself into shapes you were never meant to hold. All because you believe that if you just try enough, she'll come back. She won't. Not because your effort isn't enough, but because her fire isn't missing. It's burning somewhere else. And every extra ounce of energy you pour in teaches her exactly one thing. She doesn't need to give anything back. You'll keep showing up regardless. And a man who keeps showing up to an empty room isn't loyal. He's lost. I've lived 82 years, and the loneliest men I've ever known weren't single. They were lying next to women who had already left. Being next to a woman who isn't truly with you isn't love. It's humiliation dressed as commitment. And the longer you wear it, the harder it is to recognize your own face in the mirror. And if you let that humiliation settle, if you swallow it one more night, one more week, one more year, the next two signs will tear the curtain down completely. These are the ones she can't rehearse. These are the ones that collapse on their own. Now, if any of this is hitting close to home, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Not for me, for the algorithm, so this reaches the man who needs to hear it tonight. Number 7. The late returns. When love is real, time bends to make room for it. A woman who still desires you will find her way back to you. Even on the busiest day, even when life gets heavy, she shows up, because you're the place she wants to be. But when that fire is gone, the clock turns against you. She's late again. Work ran long. Her phone died. A friend needed her. Traffic was terrible. The story changes, but the result is always the same. She's not where she said she'd be, and she's never home when she used to be. At first you believe it, because the excuses are reasonable enough on their own. Once is life. Twice is coincidence. But when it becomes a pattern, when Tuesday bleeds into Thursday, bleeds into Saturday, and the stories keep getting thinner, the pattern becomes the proof. You don't need a confession, you need a calendar. Here's what most men don't understand. Lateness isn't just missing time, it's a test. She's not simply running behind, she's measuring. Measuring how much you'll accept, how far she can stretch the lie before it snaps, how many flimsy excuses you'll swallow before you push back. And every single time you let it slide, every time you nod and say okay, and pretend it doesn't sting, you train her. You teach her that your dignity is negotiable, that your time doesn't matter, that you'll wait by the door like a man with nowhere else to be. And the trap? Men stay silent because they think speaking up makes them look insecure. But insecurity isn't asking for respect. Insecurity is pretending you don't notice you're not getting it. So here's the move. Don't interrogate. Don't demand a timeline. Don't cross-examine her like a lawyer chasing a contradiction. Simply look at her and state what's true. You weren't here. And that tells me everything I need to know. Then let the silence sit. Don't fill it. Don't soften it. That silence is more powerful than any argument you could win, because it puts the weight exactly where it belongs, on her choices, not your reaction. A woman who still chooses you will always come home. Not perfectly, not every time on the minute, but as a pattern, as a priority. If she no longer returns to you, it's because she's already returning to someone else. But lateness is only half the story, because even when she tries to cover the gaps, her own words will betray her. And this last sign, number 8, this is the nail in the coffin. Number 8, the collapse of her story. This is the nail in the coffin, the one I told you about at the beginning, the one she can't hide no matter how hard she tries. Stories are fragile things. They can be rehearsed, polished, repeated until they sound airtight. But stories built on lies have a fatal flaw. They need a perfect memory, and guilt destroys memory. Guilt scrambles the details. Guilt makes the tongue move faster than the mind can keep up, so the cracks appear. She comes home late. The words tumble out before you even ask. Too fast, too eager, too detailed. She was at Sarah's. No, she was at the office. The meeting ran long. Or was it dinner? The timeline shifts. Tuesday becomes Wednesday. 8 o'clock becomes 10. The coworker who needed help last week becomes a friend you've never heard of this week. And each retelling shaves a little more truth off the edges, until the story doesn't even resemble where it started. But the details aren't what give her away. Her eyes do. Watch them. The next time she tells you where she's been, don't listen to the words. Watch her eyes. A woman telling the truth holds your gaze because she has nothing to protect. A woman telling a lie, her eyes dart. They drop to the floor. They flicker sideways like something inside her is running calculations. That's not stress. That's not shyness. That's deception losing its balance in real time. And once you see it, you will never unsee it. Here's the mistake most men make at this stage. They demand proof. Airtight, undeniable, courtroom-ready proof. They want the text message, the photograph, the confession with tears. But the truth doesn't come with a receipt. It never has. It comes in inconsistencies, in mismatched timelines, in the gap between what her mouth says and what her eyes reveal. You already have the evidence. You've had it for weeks. You just keep telling yourself it's not enough because accepting it means your life changes forever. Stop playing detective. You don't need a courtroom case. You need a mirror. Because this was never about gathering enough proof to confront her. It was about gathering enough honesty to confront yourself. So here's the final move. The one that separates the man who stays trapped from the man who walks free. You don't say, "I caught you." You don't wave evidence in her face. You don't beg for a confession she'll never give. You look at her and you say 6 words. "I don't believe you, and I don't need to anymore." That's not an accusation. That's a boundary. The most powerful boundary a man can draw. Because it doesn't ask her to change. It doesn't ask her to explain. It tells her, and more importantly, it tells yourself, that the lying stops here. Not because she decided to tell the truth, but because you decided to stop needing it. When her story collapses, the truth is no longer the issue. The only issue left is your decision. Will you keep lying to yourself, or will you stand up for the man you know you are? That's the nail in the coffin. Not hers, yours. The coffin you've been building around your own dignity every time you chose comfort over clarity. This is the moment you stop hammering nails and start pulling them out. Let me be clear about something before I go. This was never about turning you into a paranoid man who watches his woman's every move. That's not strength, that's prison for both of you. This was about opening your eyes, so you stop betraying yourself. Because the harshest betrayal isn't what she does in secret. It's what you allow yourself to ignore in plain sight. That's the betrayal that leaves scars no one else can see. Now, not every sign means the worst has happened. I need you to hear that. Sometimes distance comes from stress, from exhaustion, from years of things left unsaid between two people who forgot how to talk. Life is complicated. People are complicated. Your job was never to accuse. It was to observe. And if there's room to repair, you repair. You have the conversation. You fight for the thing that's worth fighting for. But if the evidence stacks up, if sign after sign confirms what your gut has been screaming for months, then the most dignified thing you can do is walk away with your self-respect intact. Because love is never worth trading your dignity. 8 signs. The silent body, the cleansing ritual, the blame game, the body's truth, the guilty affection, the absent soul, the late returns, and the story that falls apart. That's what I've seen in 82 years of watching men love and lose, and sometimes, when they're brave enough, rebuild. The men who survived? Every single one had one thing in common. They chose truth over comfort, every time. Even when the truth burned. Even when comfort was easier. Even when every voice around them said to let it go and move on and pretend. They didn't pretend. And that's why they're still standing. If this reached you at the right time, share it with a man who still refuses to see what's in front of him. Subscribe, and tell me in the comments, which sign hit you the hardest? Because your story might be the one that wakes another man up before it's too late. It's getting late now. My coffee's gone cold. The house is quiet. Take care of yourself. You're worth more than someone else's lie. You always were. Be well.